Hi everybody, it's me, Ms. McNickol. Welcome to episode 11 of Just Right. In this episode, we're going to learn how to make some books. We've been writing lots of different types of pieces, and we've been thinking about putting them into books, and today we're just going to make some books. So let's go in and get started. First, we're going to make some books out of paper bags. Here we go. The first book I'm going to make is made out of paper bags, like lunch-size bags. So if you've been getting some lunches or have some lunch bags, those work great. I only happen to have white bags at my house for some reason and not the brown ones that you usually get. But that's fine. You can use any bags, and you can make them bigger with bigger bags if you'd like to. But what I need to do is this. I'm going to cut the bottom of my bag out just by doing a little snip and cutting the bottom off. Here I go. And then once I do that, I'm left with a big, long rectangle. And believe it or not, this one bag will make my whole book. I'm going to now cut my bag into 3 sections. So I'm going to cut it 2 more times. If I want to, I can fold it so they look about the same. That one, and this side in this way. And then I'm going to cut right across the bag. And I end up with 3 pieces that are, if I open them up, pretty long. And so what you want to do is cut each of those pieces on one of the folds, and you'll end up with a really long piece of paper. So if you do that for all 3, you can have a little book that is 6 pages long, and it's a longer book made from a paper bag. Now to fasten it together, you could take a stapler and go put 2 little staples right here. If you don't have a stapler, another thing you could do is this. If you have something sharp and have an adult help you with this, take a little tack, and I'm going to put it down on something soft like a notebook would work, and I want to push it through the paper. And then I'm going to, so it creates a little hole. And then I'm going to do the same thing about an inch further down. Now I can take string. I can take a piece of wire. I happen to have, you could take a yarn. I happen to have a twist tie that has the wire inside. And I'm going to just poke that through the holes from the inside of the book to the outside. And then I do it again up here in the other hole until, and sometimes you might have to do one piece of paper at a time to poke through. Well, it's a little tricky. You might want some help. And I put all of my pages through. And on the outside, I now have my 2 wires. And I'm just going to twist them together. And now I have my little book. And so I'm trying to think, what will I make for a title for this book? Well, the one about my dogs in the woods, I think I'll call A Spring Surprise. So I'm going to write it, and I, of course, like to make my use my marker sometimes. And I'll put my name on it as the author, as we do when we make books, by Ms. McNickol. And now I have my book, my long book, where I can write my story about my dogs going on their adventure to find the geese. The next book we're going to make is called an accordion book. It gets its name after this instrument, where the center of this accordion makes a zigzag shape, just like the accordion book will make. Here we go. So first you're going to need a paper bag. It can be a large paper bag or a small paper bag. I'll do it with a small one, just so you can see it, and I'll show you what happens with the large one as well. First thing you're going to do, just like in the other book, is you're going to cut off the bottom rectangle. So I'm doing that first. Here we go, all the way around. And so now I have a hole in the bottom. I'm going to cut up one side like this, all the way down. My next step is to take this large piece of paper, and now I'm going to fold it again, but the tall way, like this. And I'm going to cut right along that fold. And that will leave me with two long strips of paper. So if you're using a large paper bag, you'll have even longer strips. Now, what I want to do is I want to figure out the size of my book. Do I want my book to be this big? Do I want my book to be this big, a littler book? Do I want my book to be very, very long and this size? It doesn't matter. But what you'll do is you'll start to fold it the size that you want. So I'm going to make a book. Well, here's a fold right here. I'm going to make my book this size, okay? So it's this size. So I'm going to have that there, and then with the rest of the paper, I'm going to fold it back. So now I have this little flap here. I'm going, it's not even a full page, is it? So I'm going to take my glue. I'll use my glue stick. And I'm going to put some glue on that flap all the way up. And then I'll take the other half of the paper bag and I'll stick it to that flap. Okay, right where I put the glue. So there we have that. And now I'm going to continue to fold it back and forth. So I go down to get it as big as I want it, right here. And then I fold it back. It's kind of like, if you know how to make a fan, it's like folding like a fan. And then I'll do it one more time and fold this piece back. Now, if I wanted my book to have more pages, I could keep doing this. Add some more to the flap and keep going with a longer piece. But here is my book right now. And if you can see it, it folds out like an accordion. Now, it doesn't look very pretty on the front. I could just write the title here, or I could put a cover on it. So let's put a cover. So I'm going to grab some colored paper out of my box. Let's see what color I have. Here's a nice bright yellow. I'm going to use that. And I will put my book down on the paper. And I want to cut my cover a little bit bigger than my book. So maybe about this much bigger. Okay? And I'm just going to go down and the edge. Okay, so it's a little bit bigger than my book. And now I need another piece for the back. So I'm going to, that's my just right one. I don't want that. Let's see what other color I have in here. Oh, here's a light yellow. I'll use that. So this will be my yellow book. I want to cut it the same size as my first piece. So I can draw a line around there so I know where to cut. Here's a pen. I'll do that. And down the side. And now I can cut that out. And this will be the back of my book. Here we go. And now what we're going to do is we're going to stick it right to our front piece. Okay, and that's my book right here. So I'm going to just take my glue and put it all over the bag. And that way I know that it won't have extra glue running off it. So I'm putting my glue on one side of that bag. And then I'm going to stick my cover so that this one edge meets the fold. And there we go. There's the cover. My book will open. There it is. There it is. And my last page, I'm going to stick my glue here to this flap, even though it's not a full page. I'll stick my glue and put on the back cover. And here's my book. It goes like this. Book. It can open like this, or I can make it just open page by page like a little book this way. And if I want to get really fancy, let's see, you can make them bigger. Here's one that I made with the big bag, and I cut it in half and made my book. Here's my cover piece. I'll glue it onto the front, and I'll make this one a little bit fancier for you. Okay, I put my glue on the last flap. I'm placing my cover right up against the fold. There's one side, and on the back side, I'll put the other cover. My glue all the way over, and then I'll stick this one, lining up that same edge. Now to make it so it might not open all the way, I could put a staple here if I didn't want it to look like an accordion, and then it just looks like a regular book. So once the front and back are on, I'm going to look for a way to put it together. And you might use ribbon of some kind. You might have a piece of string that you used. Old books were often put together with string or ribbon or a piece of leather. And what we'll do is I'm going to put my glue right across the middle of the whole book. When I cut my ribbon, I want it to be longer than the book is, because I'll be tying this part in a bow. Okay? So I'm going to put some glue right across the middle of my book. And I'm going to put my ribbon in half. And right where the half mark is, I'll put that over at the binding, over at the edge. And I'll stick my ribbon right across the middle. And then I'll wrap it around to the back. And now I need to put glue again, right across the middle of my book. It's right across the middle, and then pull my string right across the glue. So now it's together a little bit there in the back. Not a lot, but I can't really pull it apart. And then I could tie it up. I might even make a book that says, "To my friend." And it looks like a little package, and you can have your story inside. If you don't like the brown pages that the brown paper bag makes, you can cut white pieces of paper, any shape you want to, and write your words to your story or your poem on the inside of that. So that's an accordion book. Again, you can make them out of either kind of paper bag, or you could make them just out of regular paper. If you have long legal size paper, or if you have just regular copy paper, that'll work too. And your first step again is to cut the paper in half, the hot dog way, the long way, and then decide how big do I want my book to be. Maybe this one I'll make kind of a small book. So I'll go like this. I'll fold it in half And then I'm going to fold it back in half again. This is going to be a little book. Okay, if that's all I want for my book, it's an inside page like this, then that's fine. But if I want to make it longer, I'm going to glue the edge of the book or the edge of the paper, put my long strip to the edge, press it down, and then just start to fold it back and forth. And I can make it as long. Here's my accordion, back and forth, and back and forth, and back till I stop. If I want to add more pages, I can. But here's my book. And then I can put my cover on, just like we did before. I could have my cover on the front. This is a little piece. I'll just use this. I'm going to cut it in half. And I can glue my piece to the front and glue my piece to the back. And there's my accordion book, again, with a cover. Another way you can make an accordion book, so that's just with plain paper, is with envelopes. This is probably the easiest way to do it, but you do need a bunch of envelopes. And so you could have envelopes that are very tall, such as, look in my box again, see what I have. So I have a few tall envelopes like this, which would mean my accordion book is going to be very tall. And all I'm going to do is I would either lick, these are fancy ones with sticky tape on them. And look at, I'm just going to put the next envelope this way. Stick it right down after I lick it or I stick it. It goes this way. And then I can fold it back. So here goes my accordion again. Then I'll take my next one, peel it off, put the next envelope there. And then I can stick that one down like this. And so as it grows, you start to get your accordion book. There you go. And that's just made with envelopes. Now I'm going to show you how to make two books using the cardboard from a cereal box. The first one will use the skewer or the bamboo stick, and the second will use a needle and thread to bind the book together. The first way uses some other tools. One would be this stick that is like from making a skewer on a barbecue where you make the shish kebab and put the meat on. So it's that kind of a stick and a rubber band. The other thing that's fun to have when you make this one is some kind of beads to put on the stick to decorate. So, and another handy tool is going to be a hole punch. If you don't have a hole punch, again, an adult can help you make, you'll need to be making just 2 little holes in all the pages so that the skewer can go through. So let me show you how I do that one. And then I'll show you another book that's a little bit tricky too, to bind it together. So here I have my cereal box, one of the sides. I cut it in half, and I want to make sure that my paper is just a little bit smaller than the rectangles for the cover. And then what I need to do is I need to punch 2 holes into the cover along the edge, and I don't want them, so I'm coming in just a little bit, putting my hole, they're about 1 inch from each end, and then I do another down at this end. Okay, I'm going to take my other cardboard and put it there because I want the holes in the same spot. So now I want to line it up and punch and punch. Again, if you don't have a hole punch, you could take a scissor and have an adult do this part and make a little hole through both of them. Or you might be able to use a little thumbtack or a needle. Could also help you make a little hole in there. So then what you need to do is do the same thing with your paper. Now I took 3 pieces of paper and I cut them in half, and I made them a little bit smaller than my cover. I want to line up the edge where the holes are, and again I want to punch in the same spot, and the punch will go through the 3 papers. So here I go, I'm punching those. Okay, I have my holes. I line up. I'm going to put, now you might be saying, well, I don't want Rice Krispies out there on my cover, Ms. McNickol. And so if you don't want that as the title of your book, you can put it on the inside. The other thing that you could do is take a piece of paper and put glue all over here. Glue the paper down if you don't want the cardboard showing. We'll do that on the other page, on the other book. So again, I'm going to stack my cover and my papers and my back cover. I'm going to put the plain side out. I'll put the Rice Krispie side on the inside. So here I have this. Then what I need to do, I'm going to take my skewer, put it through one end, and then it's going to come through the other side, like that. Now if you have the beads, before you put it through the other side, you could put a few beads onto the stick. And I'm using this kind of a stick because I think that a stick from outside might just break. I don't think that that would work. I think you really need to have, you can buy these in the grocery store, I know. So I'm putting some beads on. I just put them on my stick. You see them there? And then I'm going to put the point through. Now it might be, this one's going to be, you'll see, it'll be a little too long for the book that I have. So I'm going to push it down, and then with a pair of scissors, I'm going to try, I think I can, and cut my stick. Came right off. Now that's not the end, because that could slide right off. So what I'm going to do is take a rubber band, an elastic band, and put it around each end of that stick, and that'll keep it in place. And then I have my cover for my book, and I could have some fancy beads here to use too. And then I can write my story on the inside of my little book made from a cereal box cover. The final way I'm going to show you to make a book is like this. So I have that one. I have the one with the paper bags that we made. This one. And the last one I'm going to show you, we take the cover and we run, again, make sure your paper is smaller than your cover. We're actually going to fold these in half, so it's not going to be a huge big book. I guess you could make a skewer book as a big one and put the skewer down at this end, like we just did here. And it would work for a full book. So to make this book, we're going to fold all your papers in half together. So this is your book. And then we're going to do the same thing with your cardboard. And this I'm doing separately just because it's so thick. Again, if I want to not have that Rice Krispie, I can put glue, and I can glue a paper right over it, and then I'll be able to color my cover. Now what I need to do is I need to take that little push pin that I had, and I'm going to put 3 holes through this one. And again, you might want something soft down underneath. So I'm just going to use my notebook that I have, put it underneath. I'm going to put 1 hole right in the middle, right through everything. I'm going to wiggle my little tack around so it makes the hole a little bigger. I don't know if you can see it. Then I'm going to do one, again, about 1 inch from the bottom. Poke my hole through all the papers and through my cover. And then I'm going to do 1 more toward the top. So I now have 3 holes. and I wiggle it around to make it a little bit bigger. And that's because I'm going to use a needle and thread. Now, if you don't have a needle and thread, what could you use? You could use a shoelace would work for this because that has that hard tip at the end. You might also have, if you like to use this plastic kind of stuff for boondoggle, they call it. This plastic, people make bracelets out of it. You might have some of that you can use. But you're going to have to make your holes a little bigger if you use that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take my needle, and this is the kind of string that you use when you make the friendship bracelets. And so I have the two through my needle. And I'm going to start at the top. I'm going to start on the outside and go in to the middle, and I just pull it. And I want to keep a little bit of a tail there. And then I'm going to go into the middle, put it through all the book, and then I'm going to go at the end. Then I'm going to go back through the middle from the white side. And then back through the bottom hole from the cardboard side. And once I do that, you're going to see that my book is all put together. Then I'll take my two ends and tie them at the top. Now, if I wanted to, as I was sewing this, I could have put some beads there, but I didn't. But I will. I'm going to tie this at the top and cut off my needle. And then I can string some beads on the ends of my string and put my beads on to have little tails. When I put the final bead on for each string, I'll want to tie a little knot around the last bead so that the string doesn't separate. So see, I'm putting my beads on. Let's pretend this is my last bead. Sometimes, I know this sounds yucky, but I have to wet the end of the string so it'll go through the bead. And then I'll just want to tie a knot here to keep that last bead on. When I tie a knot, I do it like I'm tying my shoe at the beginning part, but 2 times. Right over left and left over right. So that last one has a knot. But then I can do the same thing on this one, and I'll have my book where I can draw my cover, and I'll have all my pages on the inside. And it looks quite nice sewn there in the middle. I hope you enjoyed episode number 11, our last episode of Just Right. And as you go into the summer where you're writing stories and poems, now you'll have a way to put them into a little book. Perhaps you're going to make a book from a paper bag and cutting that into strips and joining it together with a staple. Perhaps you're going to use that paper bag to make an accordion book and put a colorful cover inside. Maybe you choose to use that brown paper bag and put a ribbon on the outside of your book and have one that goes like this. Or you have that tiny little accordion book you can make out of regular paper. That's nice to hold ideas and poems and rhymes. Finally, I showed you an accordion book that was made out of envelopes. Another fun way to use something around the house to make a book. You learned how to make a book with a skewer and a rubber band. And then you learned how to be really fancy, like they bind books for real, and sew inside and out with a ribbon. And here's one that I did that same way, where I sewed and I put colorful paper on the outside of the cardboard. So have fun making books, everybody. Have a fun summer. And remember, just write. See you sometime. Just write me a letter. Just write me a rhyme. Just write me an email, any old time. Just write me a story, maybe short, maybe long, or if you prefer, just write me a song. Just write me a text or a card with a line. Just write me your feelings. I hope you are fine. Just write what you can, write big or write small. Whatever you write will be good for us all. Just write, everybody. Just write. See you next time.